Hello, leader. Joining me today is Jessie Ginsburg. She owns the top-ranked pediatric therapy Playhouse clinic in Los Angeles and also owns a wildly popular online business that supports continuing education for SLPs. She is a former client, and I invited her back to the podcast for a kind of Where Are They Now episode. Today, you'll hear an honest account of what it's like to lead a successful private practice and an online business. You'll hear her take on multiple locations, splitting her time across two businesses, and the ongoing challenges of team leadership. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast, smart leadership for women who mean business. This show has been on air since 2018 to help women who own established brick-and-mortar businesses fix the people side of their business so they can stop carrying payroll pressure, stop over-functioning as the default decision maker, and build a team that actually performs without burning anyone out or damaging their reputation. I'm your host, Shelley Warren. My entire career has been built on leadership coaching, team development, and creating accountable, productive cultures inside real workplaces. Over here, we don't just talk about leadership, we live it. This isn't online leadership theory, academic research, or HR speak. The work we do here is grounded in real teams, real workplaces, and real consequences. Each episode delivers practical, no-fluff strategies to help you lead a team that can carry the business forward with you, not on your back. And I'll say it again, the team that got you here might not be the team that gets you there. Let's go. Here's a bit about our guest today. Jessie Ginsburg owns the top-ranked pediatric therapy Playhouse clinic in Los Angeles and is also known as the Sensory SLP because she provides continuing education for SLPs through her certification course, conference speaking, her best-selling book, Ready, Set, Connect, and the NeuroAffirm podcast and YouTube channel that she co-hosts with her partner, Chris Wagner, who's known as the Speech Dude. Together, they parent 5 active boys, all under the age of 9. Jessie leads a full life, makes deliberate choices, and stays grounded with the daily gratitude of life's opportunities and, of course, her deep passion to accelerate communication in autistic children. Let's dive in with Jessie. Welcome back to the Stacking Your Team podcast, Jessie.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be back.
This will be your third trip around the microphone with me here. And I'm thrilled that you said yes to be able to come back to kick off our Where Are They Now series, where I'm inviting some former clients to come back in and, just give us the update. Give us the update on what's been happening with your life and your business and you as a woman who leads. I'm always interested to know the scoop on what's really happening. We met back in 2017 at a conference. We worked together for a number of years as well. I've always stayed in touch with you online, watching you in action, watching your team in action, watched you launch a second business. You launched a book and a podcast and a membership program, and you're just doing all the things. And I think you're a great example of someone who has a lot of tenacity, very focused on what it is that you want out of life, and you're not afraid to go after it. And at the same point, you're not afraid to say no to what society's telling you that you should be doing or you should not be doing. And you're moving along at your own pace, which I think is key. There's too many women leaders out there that are doing things because they think they're supposed to be. You've always done everything with your own Jessie style.
Thank you. It's funny because I always thought of myself as focused, but then you list all those things that I am doing and I'm like, maybe I'm doing a lot. But that's always been my goal. Well, in recent years, it's just been to keep going, keep being consistent, simplify as much as possible. And I think that, especially as women with growing families, it can be easy to reach all the tentacles out to new things always. And I feel like every time I have a new baby or something new happens in my life, I try to snip some of those tentacles off and just, I guess we're pruning.
Yeah. But you're also becoming someone who has a significant brand in your industry. And when you reach that level, people want different things from you. And it requires a lot of judgment about what you're going to say yes to, what you're going to decline, and what you're going to reply as a maybe. And I think for a lot of women, we're conditioned to just say yes to every opportunity that we get. That's what I like about you. You're intentional about what it is that you're moving forward on. And I also know, as your former coach, that every time you say yes to something, that is also impacting your team. So the amount of visibility that you have now, the conferences that you're speaking at, the fact that you have a podcast, you're running your own live programs, you've got a membership program that you offer as well. Oh, and by the way, I have this little thing called a private practice on the side too. So it's all of those things that are happening that I know that are impacting the team as well. And that's what I'm always curious about. How did you learn to lead two different types of teams? Because you have an online business and you have a local brick and mortar private practice. So how did you learn to be a leader in both those different styles of businesses that, by the way, have your name all over it?
Gosh, with coaches, I feel like that's the only way, because they are very different businesses, and different team and different challenges. Like, for example, something that we are working through as on both sides of the team is like time off, right? And it's a little different when an online team member takes time off and then they can work from a doctor's appointment, but then a clinic-based therapist has to cancel for a doctor's appointment and those hours can't be made up. There's just a lot of differences, and it's still, it brings me so much joy and fulfillment to have both, because online is great because it's flexible and that's what allows me to speak and travel, and that's kind of where I'm building my personal brand. But then in the clinic, we're still getting that personal interaction with families and getting to mentor therapists in person. And there's just a piece of that is so special and meaningful as well.
So how do you have your team structured now? Because I know you get it. I'm all about the leadership teams, right? We all need a small but mighty leadership team. So how did you go about building in those leadership roles in the practice? And then did you look to replicate that into the online business?
You've seen me go through so many ups and downs in the clinic. I would say the smoothest it ever ran was when I had a clinic director who basically was being me. I had taught to do all of the things that I do, and that person left to start her own practice. And I think it's just maybe like the first time that happens, it hurts more than the many times it will happen after that. But we've had a lot of therapists come and go, and I feel like this last year was the year that I could just let anything roll off my shoulder and just kind of realize that it is what it is and it's all going to work out. My dad always tells me that. He always says it's all going to work out. And not getting so emotional about things that happen and letting it derail me or letting myself spiral too long. A little healthy amount of spiral, but nothing too much to take me off track. But I think something I've learned with the clinic and the model that we have, and because of the training we provide our therapists, it is not unusual for therapists to come in and want to take advantage of all of the training we have, and then they go on to whatever is the next chapter in their career. And we've had therapists who come in and we invest thousands and thousands of dollars and hours and hours and hours of time. And then another clinic comes in and says, wow, you are amazing and you should be the lead of our team.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, I've seen a lot. And I think I've just come to realize and accept and even lean into the fact that this is kind of how the therapy world works and people come and go. And if our strength is coaching and developing and training, then it's just going to be about improving our internal processes to be able to do that. And in a way that, like, when we have therapists come and go, that we could just bring the next person in and get them up to speed as quickly as possible. And that's something I've talked to you about years ago. And I think it's just not getting emotional anymore and just realizing that, like, this is just part of owning a business. And the quicker we can move from problem to solution, the more smooth everything is going to go.
There's actually a way to leverage this phenomenon that's happening in your practice, Jess. It's deciding to just own it. Take on the marquee of being the best practice to come and learn. And once that becomes what you're known for, you can have lineups of people wanting to get in to work with you. It's hard because there is that investment, both emotionally and financially, that you're investing in these people. And it does kind of bum you out. It bums everyone out when the good ones leave, for sure. But when you can have the infrastructure set up so that it's easy to move through the flows of people coming and going, then it won't hit your emotions as hard and your confidence as hard. But I lived through this with Procter & Gamble, right? Like, we were known as a learning site. So people would come to us, learn how to be fantastic, and then go get an incredible role in Australia or Istanbul or somewhere exotic. And we used to be disgruntled about it. But then we just had to lean into the fact that, hey, this is what we're known for. And people literally were lining up at the door to come and learn from a world-class operation to be the best that they could be in their field. And that's what you're doing, Jess. You're bringing these people in and turning them into world-class therapists. And then out they go, and you're just having a bigger impact with all the people that require your services.
It has been really cool to be able to see how just the personal brand has affected our ability to hire and bring new people in. And the last therapist that we just replaced, she left because her commute was insane. She lived in Orange County, and our office is in Los Angeles, and she really wanted to take this job. And I was like, it's too far. You're going to hate it. She said, no, I love driving, and I'm going to make it work, and whatever. Anyway, it didn't last very long. So from the time she gave me her notice, we had a new therapist hired within 24 hours.
There you go, Jess.
Because we have been interviewing, and we have our feelers out, and we have people kind of on the wing waiting to hear back from us. And there was someone great I'd already interviewed previously and reached out to her, accepted, contract signed within 24 hours. So, and that was, I feel like, one of the first times really I leaned into that. And it's just one of those things where, you get them into the mindset, and then it helps everything just move forward.
Mm-hmm. To always be hiring, right? Always having job postings, always having preliminary interviews, always having someone that's checking references. And then it's always having that conversation with your team members about what's their plan this upcoming quarter. Because people fall in love really quickly. People suddenly find out they're having a child. People suddenly have to deal with elder care issues. People's lives can change on a dime. And so we have to be out ahead of that with our hiring practices so that you can respond like you did in this situation, Jess, versus reacting to it. Like, there's the difference in the leadership mastery, is understanding I don't need to react anymore. I'm responding. I can respond because I have a plan.
Yeah. And I think I just continuously tell myself, what is the worst case scenario?
Mm-hmm.
And it's never that bad. What is the worst case scenario? We don't find someone, and then we have clients who have to go without therapy while we're hiring someone new. It's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that helped me also, just to keep an even keel mind, but knowing that. So I guess to answer your question is that it's been something that we've been playing around with the leadership structure, because I just don't know if the standard clinic director, teach someone to be me, is what is going to serve us in the long run, because there is so much risk involved there. And it's not like, I don't want to feel like I can't teach someone all of the things that they need to know. It's just that what I've been doing since then, which has been several years now, is we have been kind of dividing leadership responsibilities among the team. So we had a period of time where, we had someone who was more in charge of the admin related things, and then someone who was more in charge of the clinical related things. And then right now we have someone who is the head of like continuing education for the therapists. So that's what I'll come back to you with that. That's what I'm playing around with now. And we have a couple of people who are new to our team. So I just don't think that they're ready to take on more than they're currently doing right now because they're still learning the processes and everything. But I think eventually trying to give everyone something to be responsible for would be fun. Like I just gave away our social media to one of our therapists, and I have never, ever given that away to someone. Not my personal brand, but our clinic social media. So trying to get someone in to help a little bit with marketing, and then someone else to help with continuing education, and then someone else to be more in charge of admin. The plan for this year, come back in December and ask me if we made it. But having a self-managed team is my goal this year. So anything that I'm currently doing or like needed for, not big picture stuff. I still love doing that, but just any of the daily stuff are things that I'm trying to delegate this year. And I have a plan. So,
well, it will impact your retention because lots of discussion out there in the world of work these days is all about burnout. So if you can divide and conquer and have people that are owning a specific function of the business and they build a lot of mastery and they feel like they're leaving their stamp on the business within that lane, that's what helps people feel like, okay, I'm in control. I really know what I'm doing here. I'm adding value every day versus having one person that's supposed to know it all. That is what leads to burnout.
Yeah. In the clinic business, it's just one of those things where I think when you're a therapist, you see people doing admin and you think, oh, that's the fun part. Oh, I want more flexibility and not have to do as much one-on-one therapy. And then you get into that role and you realize that is not the fun part. Playing with kids and playing Don't Break the Ice and Guess Who is the fun part. So it's something that I always strive for with our therapists is just how can we keep them doing what's enjoyable for them? Because at least in the therapy world, a lot of the burnout comes from the documentation and paperwork and all of the other stressors. And that's something in our clinic we try to be as efficient as possible and set up systems for them so that they don't have to spend their time and energy there. Our therapists are not going home and doing notes at night. And a lot of clinics or schools, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Or, concerned about sales. Mm-hmm. Or concerned about program development, right? Like there's just so many other things that therapists can get pulled into if there's no clear definition for what their role is.
And what we do in my online team is the first person I hired her just as a assistant, essentially, to help out in one of our community groups. And she's now head of our operations. So she does everything. I mean, her and I are very different in that she's just like very organized, Google Sheets, systems, and that is the opposite of me, which is really helpful. So then on that side of the business, she's really in charge of team. It's just a constant balance of where am I needed more right now, and sometimes I'm needed more in the clinic, and sometimes I'm needed more in the online business. And in my online business, we have soon to be 12 kids between the three of us. So I have 5 boys. My head of operations has 4 boys, and then our other full-time employee she's about to have her 3rd baby. So, we've got seasons where we have to pick up for each other. And all of that. We never stop having kids in the online business.
Oh my gosh, that's quite a squad you got that you're developing over there. But so what feels easier to lead? Is it the online business or is it the practice?
The online business.
For you, Jessie, you as the owner and the face of these brands, what feels easier for you to step into leadership? Is it the private practice or is it the online business?
Online business feels much easier, and it's a smaller team, but I think it's just more that our team has so much autonomy and flexibility and purpose. Not that the clinic doesn't, but just in a way of like, we're trying to get this like almost like startup energy, let's conquer the world, let's get all these trainings out to the world. And we have that passion for sure. And gosh, I don't know, it's easier, but it's higher risk, And then there's parts of the clinic that feel more fulfilling. I don't know, in a more real sense. We'll be walking, like my partner Chris and I will be walking down the street and a parent will stop us or something and say, "Oh, I follow you guys on social media. Oh my God, you changed my life and my kid is doing this and that. And thank you guys so much for your content." But it's like, we don't get that often, And whereas in the clinic, it's like you can see the lives you're touching every single day when you're interacting with kids every single day. And sometimes, as you know, I'm sure, with an online business, it's kind of like you're putting out all this content training out into the void and you just don't know which ears it's landing on and who's absorbing what or how it's impacting them. So there is a level of fulfillment that, that I get so much though from being in the clinic. And it's just that I feel like most entrepreneurs love problem solving and coming up with what's new. And there's like something about the clinic that I love, sitting down and looking at our KPIs and coming up with the next plan and what's our strategy going to be. And, that stuff I love about the clinic business too.
Well, and there's two different clients or customers that you're serving, right? So like in your practice, you're serving children of families and building those relationships with their parents. And then in your online business, you're developing SLPs. Like you're really pouring into the industry. And then, of course, with your personal brand, families are following you as well. And unlike that lady that stopped you in the middle of the street, right? So you're having like really far-flung reach with that as well. But how do you feel personally? Do you ever have moments where you feel torn or like, hey, I wish I could split myself in half, or I wish I could clone myself? Or do you find it difficult that you need to code switch? Like, do you feel like you're code switching at all?
Going from business to business?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I try really hard to chunk my time so that I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't always do that, but that's kind of what I try to do. And even location, like I go to this gym that we work out at, it's a tennis club, right? So they have tables and to sit at, and I just had breakfast there this morning while I was working. So I try to get out of the clinic and just get in more of a creative mindset when I have to do that type of work and then go into the clinic.
How many hours a week are you working out in the clinic? Like in terms of service delivery?
2 hours.
2 hours or 2 clients?
4 30-minute sessions a week is my current schedule. And that's just, we had a therapist leave and those kids we didn't have spots for, and I'm obsessed with them anyway. So it worked out. So yeah, none of my, it's a very small percentage of my time is spent in therapy. A lot of my clinic time goes to admin that I know that I shouldn't be doing, that I'm working on delegating. So I'm still taking our phone calls for new families. And that was something where it wasn't worth a therapist. I trained a therapist to do that before. And it doesn't make sense, because in that same half hour, they could be billing for a session instead of trying to get a family on the phone who may or may not pick up. So it really just makes more sense from a profitability standpoint for it to be an administrative position. So that is starting next month. We have a training program in place where I have someone from our admin team. We have 3 full-time admin now, and I'm going to be training her in these phone calls. So that's a big part of my time. Getting families off of our wait list. Our wait list for afternoon times, we have maybe 100 families waiting for times after, 3 o'clock. So that's a big time suck of mine as well, that I have someone else that I'm training on that next week as well. So I'm just trying to get to the point where most of my clinic time is going toward developing those leadership positions.
Yeah, because you can't just throw someone in one of those roles and then just sink or swim, right? You've got to develop them too, for sure. So what do you trust yourself with now that you didn't when you first started? Like, are you trusting yourself more to make informed decisions? Do you trust yourself more to host harder adult conversations? Do you trust yourself more to raise your hand and ask for help? Like, what do you trust yourself now as someone who's an experienced leader with two businesses, as opposed, back when you and I first met?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just that I know so much more about finances now and profitability, and that just makes such a big difference. And there have been so many clinics. You know, I've had lots of friends who owned clinics for 10 years in the area and then shut down and then said, "Oh, we've been in the red every year." I was living off my husband's salary, and my therapists, I think, know that I'm savvy enough with our numbers to know that something like that would never happen with us. Like, I would never let it get to the point of that happening because I'm so on top of everything that I need to be in order for that not to happen. Or like other clinics that get bought out by big corporations and then promise their therapists one thing, and then they're like, starting in the new year, guess what? Your schedules are actually going to be 5 days a week now instead of 4, or they could just completely change. So I think that, like, I know a lot about our numbers, which drives everything that we're doing. And last year was our highest revenue year, and we are not like, my goal was never to have more therapists. It was never to have a bigger clinic. We actually downsized our clinic about a year and a half ago because I didn't want more people. I wanted a smaller team, but higher profitability. And that is what we did last year. We just focused on how can we pour into the people we have? How can we improve the systems that we have and make them more efficient? And how could we increase reimbursement rates and in revenue in general? And those were our primary focuses, and that really paid off.
Wow, that's smart. Really smart. I love that you've decided that, and you trust that you don't need to fall into the trap of having this massive practice. Have you ever felt a twinge of thinking you need to open up a second practice?
Funny. I went to a conference. It was all speech pathologists, and it was all like either aspiring business owners or business owners. And I was shocked at when this group of people, it was probably a couple hundred therapists, they were asked, what is your goal? And so many of them wanted massive practices or multiple locations. And I'm like, wow, I didn't realize so many people wanted this, but I want the opposite. And that's because I've seen how much harder it is when teams are bigger. And there's just the people, to me, is always the most stressful part. It's like the most rewarding, but also the most stressful, as you know. I'm like, I've met therapists. I have some friends that I've met in the last year who have 100-person clinics. I'm like, wow, that is impressive. And I would never want that. And that's awesome, but it's just like you have to figure out what you want instead of just, oh, well, the right thing to do is after you have one clinic, you should open a second one. Because we've gotten requests all the time. Open one here, the drive's too far. I'm just like, no.
Sure. Yeah, I see a lot of people that will open up multiple locations way too quickly, and they're literally just sharing problems across locations because they don't have a stellar home site like before they replicate into a second or a third. So
yeah, it's a model after.
It's a model. What's one leadership habit that you would never give up now, no matter what?
This is kind of a more personal, I guess, than business related, but just keeping time for myself. I mean, I am working less than I ever have right now. And I'll get up, I'll go to the gym, I'll listen to podcasts, I'll read a book. Like, I'm just feel like the more you can put into your emotional well-being, the more you get out of your day. It's just, you can work less because when you're working, you're more regulated and more focused. And yeah, so that's a big one. And then, as you know, I have 5 kids, 9 and under. And a big part of that for me is just wanting to be able to be present at home, which was always, always a struggle. And I feel like that's just something now that I've gotten good at doing, is coming home and knowing that I don't have to be thinking about work when I get home.
So do you have any sort of little ritual or habit that helps you switch from business owner to mom?
I try to remember when I see my kids, like just how adorable and how they're never going to be this age again. And I think like just moments of gratitude throughout the day, as cliche as that sounds, that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And I've just been working so much on having an abundant mindset. And that's something that I've talked to you about. Funny, because as someone who's gone through divorce and spent basically like every dollar I'd ever saved on my attorney and then having to start from scratch, I was the most secure person my whole life financially, not because I had any money to my own name, but because my parents were always there for me. Or I was in a relationship with someone and I had someone, and then it like went the complete opposite direction. So having gone through that, it's like I had to put so much work in to be able to come out the other side of not feeling scarce all the time, and making decisions from that. So that's been the thing I've been working on, especially over the past like 6 months or so, is just thinking of money is energy and you have to keep it flowing. And when you hold on to it, it just puts a block in the flow of everything. So I've been trying to just keep an abundant mindset, spend where I want to spend. And with that comes having those moments of gratitude and realizing, like we got to put an addition on our house this last year, which is amazing, because 5 years ago we were like, how are we ever going to buy a house? And now we bought a house and we get to put an addition on our house. Or like we just put a fence in our front yard so that our kids could play basketball without it being dangerous for them. And it's like just being able to afford the things that we couldn't have. Like I was just joking around with Chris and I was like, remember when we moved into this house and we really wanted carpet in the bedrooms and it was like $1,100, and I was like, you're going to have to pay for it because I can't. So having those moments of gratitude, I think helps a lot, in daily practice.
Well, you have a very full life, Jess. So tell us, structure your home life between you and Chris and the kids and, your other activities that you do. How do you structure things so that you do have that abundance mindset and you are able to be present with the kids and you're not being pulled into thinking, oh, I need to go grab my laptop?
Yeah. The great thing about our relationship and parenting relationship is we just do everything all together. And it's not like 50-50. It's like 100-100. I was just thinking about this last night, actually, as I was putting the littlest one, he just turned a year old, as I was putting him to bed and just thinking like the reason that we work and we can have so many kids is because from the moment we get home, we're both just doing. And it just until the kids get to bed, it's not like, oh, one person's going to do this and the other person's going to sit on the couch for an hour. I mean, I've been in other kinds of relationships as well. So I know what it's like to be in other types of relationships where maybe it doesn't feel like the workload at home is not fair. But like Chris leaves earlier in the morning for work. And then I usually get home maybe a little bit later than him. And it just really works out. And then finding someone who has the same value of wanting to build the family and pour into our kids. And then the weekends can be about the kids, But also we are both so lucky to have flexibility in a lot of our work day where like we could go have a early dinner date or something like that during the week, and like meet for like a 4 or 4:30 dinner before coming home to the kids. So I think that both of us pouring in equally into the family is the only way that it has been able to work for us.
What other supports do you have set up, like in your personal life and even in the business? Do you have extra people that provide like this on a project basis, or do you have people at home that come in at certain times of the year to kind of help with things?
We're not great at that. We do need to. we need to get a cleaning person. Okay, we have not had a cleaning person like a couple years, but we have help with the kids. We have my mom who moved to LA, and she does so much with them. And that was something that, I don't know, there was a lot of guilt, I think, for me in that I wasn't the one picking up my kids from school. But I think that before you have kids, you have this idea that school is going to end at like 3:30 every day, and it doesn't. It's like, okay, Tuesday, Thursday, 1:45. That's just not how school schedules are. And then minimum days are like every few weeks, there's a holiday. There's just so much. And I had someone say to me, well, does your mom enjoy doing all of that with your kids? And I said, yeah, it's like the joy of her life. And they said, well, why would you want to take that away from her?
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're lucky to have a lot of family support too.
I pick Ellie up from school 3 days a week. And then I often will have her like on PA days or on the weekend if they're having like a date night. And I really do cherish that time. I love building the relationship with her for sure. But I also, when Danielle first got pregnant, I was very clear with her and I said, do not expect me to be your daycare provider. I will help when I can and we'll coordinate things. But I can't be your backstop. You need to have a backup to the backup.
Yeah, I think I'll be like that as a grandparent as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Milo, I mean, his schedule, he can be flexible too. So between the three of us, we definitely make things happen for sure. But it is significantly different when you have a power couple like you and Chris that are doing a lot. And you also have 5 boys. I mean, come on, let's get real. You need the level of support in order to make it all happen. Or otherwise, the relationship is at risk, both with each other and with the children. And yeah, it's just not the way to live.
Now we're trying to decide on number 6. So,
oh my gosh, I would love to have an ounce of the energy that you have, Jessie.
I don't know. I'm just like, what am I going to do when the kids aren't small anymore and they don't need me to put on their clothes? What am I just going to like go to the beach when they're just going to run around, take care of themselves, and I'm just going to sit there? Like, I don't understand what that part of life will be like.
You'd never have struck me as someone who's just going to sit and go to the beach, Jess. You will fill that time with something else. Mm-hmm. You will. So tell us, what are you excited for 2026? You told us a little bit about some of the goals that you have in the businesses this year. Is there, and possibly baby number 6 on the way, anything else that you're excited for this year?
I mean, what I really wanted to start doing this year was doing more international trainings, both, paid and not, for going and serving communities in need. And that's something that I've been really, really wanting to do and haven't, because I'm pregnant every other year for the last 10 years. So then that was big on my mind. And then we started talking about, are we going to have another baby? And then I'm like, well, I guess I can't plan a trip if that could possibly happen. So yeah, we need to figure out what life is going to look like, I guess. But yeah, we have a space to hire one more therapist. So we're definitely going to be hiring one more person this year. And having that self-managed team is going to be huge. On my online team, we got another baby coming. So we'll probably do a little bit more, in that business than I normally would for a season. And we'll just continue, Chris and I are getting to speak together more and more. And yeah, so that's a big thing for us. And it's nice because we're able to, have our separate work lives, but we also have been able to build a business together as well. So ideally, we would go do once a month traveling to speak. And we don't really like to leave the kids more than that, but that would be a fun thing for us.
Yeah, for sure. I love that plan. I love all this. And you're so good at going after what you want, Jess, that I have every confidence that you're going to be able to bring some of these things to life for sure. So before I let you go, any other words of wisdom that you would have for those other private practice owners out there?
Build the life you want. I think something that was so hard for me was just not knowing what I wanted my life to look like. And it's hard to know what your goals are if you don't know what the end goal is, then where are you going? I think even just thinking about short-term plans helps a lot. But I feel like life is too short to stress, and I'm at the point in my life where I'm just stressful parent, go somewhere else. I don't need to deal with that. Like I don't have the time and energy for that anymore, and don't need to be surrounded by the negative.
That's true. You've built a wonderful practice and a great online business and an incredible brand. You can be selective as to the clients that you're going to serve.
Yeah. Fill the room with positive energy.
Yeah, for sure. So tell everyone, where would you like people to continue to stay connected with you? What would you prefer? Do you want them to follow you on Instagram? Go to the website? You tell us. The podcast. You've got a membership program as well.
Yeah, I would say Instagram's a good place. Sensory SLP.
All righty. Well, I'll have all of your links teed up in the show notes anyways, but that's where I watch what you're up to, Jess, is over there on Instagram.
Yes, we are on there. I have a team member full-time in there too, but I'm also in there myself because it is fun.
Well, thanks so much for coming back and visiting with us and giving us an update on everything that's been going on in your life. I appreciate the transparency. And I appreciate the reality check that you're giving everyone today.
Well, thank you for having me. Anytime I'll come back. You just holler.
If you listened to this and thought, wow, how does she do it all? I hope you also heard that Jessie is thoughtful about the choices she makes, including the importance of asking for help, self-care, and maintaining an abundant mindset as a dual business owner. Be sure to connect with Jessie on Instagram, where she's the Sensory SLP, or with her other links that you'll find in the show notes. And if you're ready to step into your role like Jessie, we're welcoming new members into the Leadership Lab right now. If today's episode helps you see your leadership in a new way, I'd love to hear about it. Come connect with me on Instagram, where I'm at Stacking Your Team, and tell me what's troubling you about your team right now. And hey, if you're tuning into this podcast because you work somewhere and you want to develop your leadership skills, I invite you to start following our sister company, Thousand Islands Leadership Consulting. Check us out on Instagram or LinkedIn so you can chart your course to the next level of leadership.
This is Ellie. Come back next Tuesday. My Mimi will have another episode for you.